So look, this will be fairly interactive. Just not like necessarily the opportunity meeting where we just ask you to switch off, and so we can get through our presentation. This really, I do just want this to be quite interactive, uh, and I'm going to start putting a little bit of a format around ways to approach. So, look, I think the first thing is for those that don't know me, I'm Chris Boone. I've been in business for 40 years. Uh, I've never, apart from 6 months of my life, I've never worked for anybody. And I hated that 6 months. So I don't think I'm actually made to be an employee. And so when I saw this business, I was actually, I'll just give me a moment just while we just, just while I just do all the intros and stuff like that. So look, just give me a sec here, guys. Yeah, and then I'll open it up. We can you can come off at one at a time, and then we can sort of have a chat. But look, I was Andrew and we own and operate. Uh, we were owning and operating about 6 to 8 different companies, mainly in the financial services. Uh, in the KiwiSaver, which is for the guys in Australia, that's like the New Zealand superannuation insurance, some software development. We have an events business, and we also have, we're doing some stuff in the recruitment space. So we were fairly busy. I would easily be working 80 to 100 hours a week. I'd very rarely get to bed before midnight. And sometimes when the pressure was on, I'm sending emails out at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we're up early in the morning attending meetings. So, look, we made a good income. It would certainly be in the top very small percent of what people make, or top income earners, I should say. So, when we looked at this, we would not be a typical prospect because people knew how busy we were. They knew they could tell a little bit, I guess, well, they wouldn't know what our income is, but they knew we were well remunerated. So I'm only telling you this you just never know. And my background is I did get involved in the 1990s in the Amway business and we did really well. For those that don't know, we'd sort of reached an emerald in that level, which was paying us around about $100,000 for a few years. That was in the 1990s, and then for various things sort of unwound, I wanted to focus a little bit more in the corporate world, and so for the last 20 years, that's where I've lived, and I spent a lot of time around board tables with CEOs, uh, government politicians, policymakers, all that sort of stuff. So that was cool. But the other side is probably what I loved and never really got a lot of time to do, was getting, actually meeting people and helping them with their risk insurance needs and health insurance needs and that sort of thing. So I love that interface. And so you started to go away from that. And I think there's a very good book called The E-Myth Revisited, and that's where a lot of business people sit. And they've been good at something, whether it's a plumber or an electrician. I was quite good at insurance because I really believed in the product, particularly health insurance. And then you start up your own business, and then because you think, well, okay, now I want to be in business. And then a lot of business owners then get to the point where they're actually not doing what they love. A plumber typically would often, or electrician, love getting out, meeting the people, getting on the tools and stuff like that. I love sitting in front of clients. But it got to the point where you're running a business and you're so embroiled in the staff, the payroll, just the running of the business. You actually go away from what it is you love, and you've actually just made yourself a job. And you'll see that in a lot of business people. So, look, and I think just to preface this, we've actually sold down a significant chunk of our business because I see this as a greater opportunity. I see this as the greatest opportunity, wealth creation opportunity I have seen. In our industry, we had renewable income, which came in. It comes in all the time, but it takes a lot of work to maintain that renewable income. What I saw here straight away, this is residual income. And residual income is that starts to spread throughout New Zealand, throughout Australia, throughout the other countries that we are introducing people to. People, and what I loved about the consumable aspect of this, you take it off every day. You put it on in the morning and you take it off at night, and then you put another one on and you take it off. And at the end of the month, you run out of your sleeve and you have to reorder it. So it's a genuine residual income. So that's what attracted me. And I think I tell you all that story because as coming from the financial services, I understood renewable income. And having had experience in the Amway business way back in the 1990s, I sort of understood that renewable income there. So when I was, and look, I've been approached probably or seen most multi-levels over the last 20 years or direct sales businesses. I haven't been remotely interested in being involved or joining it. I just didn't have the time. But I'd always say to somebody, I'd say, look, direct sales or multi-level marketing is a fantastic business. I learned so much in the 1990s, and if you're coming into business as a brand new person, get involved in some sort of not multi-level or direct sales, a young person, it couldn't be better for learning business principles, learning skills, getting around successful people. So really, and that's where I come to at this point. So when I saw this initially, as you well know, or if you know my story, I went along purely and simply for a solution for my daughter who was struggling. I thought, I'm okay. There's not a lot really wrong with me, although I had, serious issues with a shoulder tear. I just got off a major back surgery, and I was due to possibly have another hip replacement because when I was young, I played a lot of sport, cricket and rugby, and I played at a high-ish level as a young man. So my body got absolutely smashed. I was playing against grown men and actually current All Blacks when I was 16, 17, and 18. So you can imagine what that did to my body. But it never showed up till later on. So I still thought I was okay. So when I sat down and I saw the compensation plan, I thought, this is genius. This is the best income creation vehicle, wealth creation vehicle I've ever seen. And then I got a call from Andrew Hoyes, and I had some discussion with Tessa. So Tessa actually had done the presentation. I started to meet Sue. I got this call from Andrew, and I thought there's more to this. And that's when I decided to get involved, in the whole business opportunity. So, and again, I tell you all that is because you just don't know what people are thinking and what is going on in their minds. And at the Level Up, I think we did a brief session, and in that session, really what I wanted to say at that session is, look, it's probably the same. We've all got people that we think are possibly at a higher station than us. It's not true, but it's our own perception. We might think a doctor is at a higher station, a physio, it depends where you see yourself fitting in the chain. A business owner but they're not. A business owner, the only probably difference from a business owner and someone that is working for a company is they're probably gone out themselves and are wanting to create their own deal. But there's no difference. And the work that they're doing, it is really, most business owners I know, they're the last to get paid. They are working really hard. They're very excited for the first year or two, and then it becomes hard. I mean, I spoke to a business owner just 2 days ago, and I said, and this is my exact words, I said, mate, what's your exit strategy? And he said, well, he said, I don't really have one other than working another 5 years and put some savings together. So I just said, look, I might have a solution for that. So he's really excited. We're following up to, and this was only 2 days ago, so I'll be following up tomorrow. And so, again, it's that exit strategy. And I saw this as the exit strategy it was an exit strategy out of an industry I really loved, but was really tying me down so much. So this was an exit strategy where I know that I can replace what I was earning over here, but also have the freedom of time. And that's what attracted me. And so, and because this is approaching business owners, really it's just, I think it's just, they're no different from anybody else. It's just like a doctor is no different from anybody else. They're just skilled in a different area. And it was interesting. I used to coach a cricket team, my son's cricket team, and it was at a private school. And one of the, it's quite topical today actually, one of the coaches, so one of the parents was an All Black coach, and he's one of the current All Black coaches at the time. And his son was in my team, and he was a captain because he had good leadership potential, and he's a good young lad. But we're sitting on the sideline, and the game was going on, and this All Black coach and I were chatting about the All Blacks. One of the All Blacks had got into trouble, done something, after hours and got a bit boozed and got picked up on a CTV camera. And we're just talking about that. And look, and this has stuck with me and if you remember this when you're approaching anybody, he said, what people don't realize, Chris, he said, these are just young men that are good at rugby. And I thought that is so true. And then when I look at the cricket, he said, but people put them out as these on this pedestal and role models, celebrities. They think they're just young men that are good at rugby, and they probably haven't had a lot of education in today's environment, world education other than playing rugby. And then I looked at that with other people, and I looked at the cricketers, and I'm thinking these are just young men that are really good at cricket. But we expect them to be something else. And it was interesting that he also said when you see them on TV, they look much older than they are. And they've had media training, so they sound very eloquent when they speak. So when we come back to this, if you look at a doctor, a business person, anybody, they just, that they have decided to be skilled in that area. So then it's just really finding what is it that this person could potentially be looking for. And that is the way you're going to do that is to ask questions. If we go in there and look, and I think one of the things too, and we talked about this in one of the sessions, might have talked about this on Monday night, is if you don't know something or you feel nervous or you feel intimidated by that person, because that can happen, we get nervous. I still get a little bit nervous when I go to see some people, and it's just I go, what's this all about? This isn't dumb, but we do. It's just it means you care. You get a few butterflies, and it's good. For me, that keeps me on my game. Um, and but if you get into a situation, just say that. Just say, look, I feel a little bit nervous sitting here talking to you, Martin, because, look, I know you're incredibly successful at what you do. You're well respected in the community. But look, I just saw this fantastic opportunity, and I wanted to run it by you to see maybe if you're in a position to look at something. Now, nobody's going to put you off with that. I've just done a launch meeting, and I've gone out to a whole bunch of what I thought were, I think slightly higher profile people. Amount of people, I've only had a few come back. So, look, thanks, Chris, but no thanks. But look, really, thanks for thinking of me. Because a genuine person is actually going to appreciate you reaching out. I know through my business life, I have never begrudged or looked down on. In fact, I look up on, if somebody comes to me and approaches me in that sort of manner and way, I'm on their side. I'm immediately with them. I'm thinking, well, this is taking a wee bit of guts to do this, and I'll certainly hear them out. And I think one of the things I've learned over the years, you might make a phone call and the person's abrupt and they're saying all sorts of rubbish on the phone, and they won't let you get in front of them. I tell you what's going on right there. It's their self-esteem. It's nothing to do with you. And I can tell you right now what's happening mentally. They're too afraid to get in front of you and say no to your face. It's a lot easier to say no over the phone. Well, when you approach somebody, a business owner, you get someone like Ray and Dean, and those guys are very successful business owners. We've got a lot of very successful business owners. Not all are building, those guys are, but not all of them are building the business. Some of them are just using the product. They know they can sit down in front of you, and if they want to say no, they'll say no. So they'll let you get in front of them. And so they're just, I don't know, just something there. So don't be concerned, don't be intimidated. And like I said, if you feel a little bit nervous, just say that. I had an advisor, and he became one of our most successful advisors, but he didn't speak great English. He'd come in from Sri Lanka, very bright guy, and gets excited and spoke so fast. And I could see the very first meeting because I was training him and I sat in the very first meeting, and the person we were talking to, I could see he just lost him completely. It's like, here's some guy that can't properly speak English telling me this stuff. I don't understand what he's saying. And we didn't go anywhere. So all I did is I took him aside and said, look, don't worry about this. This is what I want you to say next time you go into a meeting. So, look, you probably haven't guessed this, but English isn't my first language. And they'll probably laugh. They say, but I do know what I'm talking about. I am passionate. I am excited. I'll probably speak too fast. So please just put your hand up and tell me to slow down. That changed everything. He immediately, because everyone got on side with him. Those people jumped on board and thought, okay, well, he's real. He's being real. He's being honest. Because let's face it, there's nobody out there that hasn't been a little bit nervous about some sort of presentation at some time. So, look, guys, that's really just what I'd say as we lead into this. Um, I think finding out what somebody is genuinely looking for, and just ask them, look, look, I've come upon, and I typically just use the Steve Merritt approach. And this was on one, I think it's on This Is a Team. I just wrote it out. It was quite a script that I've used this. Look, I'm just launching a new health technology into New Zealand, or a new, I would say, a new health technology that regenerates dormant stem cells. I'm really excited about it. What do you know about stem cells? And then shut up and just let them talk. Some people know a little bit, some people think they know a bit, and most people know nothing. And then it's just really simply, it's slide 2 or 3, I think, on our presentation. Look, I never knew that by the time that when we were born, we had all our stem cells. In fact, we were actually made from stem cells. And as a baby, and I usually say this, but we started as a little sperm and an egg, and 9 months later, we're a baby. That's stem cells, and we have all our stem cell activity, and it's really strong right through to about 20ish. But what happens, just part of the natural aging process, is they start to decline. They go to sleep. So by the time we're 30, 50% of them are dormant. By the time we're 60, 90% are dormant. That's why we seem to age so much faster, but we heal so much slower. That's when we notice things. We start to notice the wrinkle lines, the stiff back. We're not quite as agile as we used to be. So what this technology does is reactivate dormant stem cells and allows your body to function at maximum capacity. So look, anyway, that's enough about me. But look, if the money were right and it fitted your time schedule, would you be open to looking at something? That type, it doesn't have to be exactly those words, but that type of thing. Now, who's, right there, any intelligent, open-minded person is going to go, if the money is right, of course I'll be open to something. The money is right, and I actually could fit it into my time schedule. Why wouldn't I look at something? And then we just send them, to This Is It info, or we bring them to a launch meeting. But like, and during the course of these sessions, and even if you've got some questions, we can, and it's not just going to be me. I'm going to get some of the other guys to come in. I'm going to, I'm going to get Ray to come on some of the sessions. I've got Mark on here. Look, and I know some of you well, and some of you I'm just getting to know. Mark Thompson's got some great language around that. So it's just not going to be me in these sessions. I'll host them, but I'm going to bring in people that have had success and experience around that. Dean, I know Dean had to just have his camera on at the moment because he's got some things going on. So, yeah, I guess that's by way of a 20-minute introduction. Has anyone got any questions or pressing things that, for the rest of the next 10 minutes or so, I can just sort of help through, or you want to share something? You have to come off mute.
Hey, Chris. Love your
Hey,
work.
Hinge. Thank you.
Hey, you should be the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Thank you.
You're a legend. I just want to ask you, are you approaching old contacts that you've been in business with or you've dealt with, or are you just completely cold calling?
Yeah, yep. No, people I know, I think I find a little bit easier. The launch meeting that we just did with Andrew and Vanessa, that was a really, I think we're going to be talking about that on Monday night, but that was really good reconnecting. I send out, yeah. Um, and I think it's just, yeah, no, people I've known. I'm not really cold calling people. There was one person keeps coming up in all my feeds, and I think we're even friends on Facebook, but I've never met the person. So I thought I'd reach out and that person. That was the only really cold call that I've met. Yeah.
And you're talking to them purely from a business perspective, come and join and come to the opportunity rather than talk to people about their health issues. We call it ambulance chasing,
Yeah.
terrible term, but
Yeah, it
when I
is.
first started, I was, I'm an empath, so I'm always like, oh, you got a sore knee? Oh, let me put a patch on that.
Yeah.
And so you get a mixture. You want customers in your business, of course. Not everybody's going to be a Chris Boone, taking this to the next level. So, in your experience, you just approach them straight up with the business opportunity, right?
Yeah, most times. But I don't exclude. You're right, Ange. I don't exclude people that if I see that there's an issue. Like I've got a business partner, and like he's a big, tough, gruff guy. He calls. We have a saying in New Zealand. He calls BS all day long. But anyway, he got off the plane, flew up from Queenstown to see us. We had a meeting, and he's hobbling, and he was grumpy because he couldn't play golf, and he was on a cocktail of painkillers. And I said, look, mate, because I didn't want to mix the business with him initially. And I said, look, mate, you just got to try this. And he immediately said, okay, whatever it takes. He just wrote out straight away, signed up for core. I didn't even have to explain too much for him. Not core, sorry, advanced. And 2 months later, it's gone. His sciatica's gone. He's got no painkillers. He's playing golf. He's dropped 7 kgs because he's more active. But he said, I don't want to build the business. I said, that's fine. He said, I'll refer people to you. I said, well, we'll put them under you. No, don't even want that. He said, "Oh, you just buy me a meal." So um, yeah, so look, I think there is that too. I mean, if you come upon somebody, and look, I love what Vanessa and Andrew said the other night when they talked to their neighbour on Monday night. They said, look, neighbours was complaining about back pain, I think it was, and they just said, look, I might have something for that, something that could help with that. And so, yeah, look, and I think too, the health thing and the technology is the door. I think even if I'm talking to somebody that I'm wanting to approach from a business side, it's still the technology that opens the doors. Um, Launching a new technology that regenerates or reactivates dormant stem cells. What do you know about them? And that sort of is an easy transition into the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.
And
I
you
can ask
never,
if anybody, if you don't mind, just because I know there's a few new people here who
sure.
will really understand that sometimes you're going to get the no's,
Yep.
and always about more no's get you closer to yeses. So maybe you could speak into that.
Look, I think it's anything in life, Ange, and it's not personal. It's not for them. If I said right now, who wants a cup of coffee right now? You know, yeah, who does and who doesn't? I can't see you all, but who doesn't want a cup of coffee right now? So does that mean coffee's bad? Does that mean coffee doesn't work? Does that mean you're rejecting me? No, it just means right now the time is not right, or you just don't drink coffee. If I said, who, I enjoy or G&T probably. um, I'm not on school nights. It's part of my discipline, only in the weekends. So, um, but if say if someone said to me on Wednesday, "Hey, you want to come out for a drink?" It's like, look, thanks, but no thanks. But if they ask me that same question on a Friday, yeah, maybe, or a Saturday. So, look, I think put it in context. It's just they're not looking right now, and they may be looking in the future. So don't burn it. Don't take it personally. And I think if you ask the question uh, properly, look, I have this incredible business opportunity, and I just really wanted to share it with you. I thought it might be something that it might appeal to you, something like along those lines. And they said, look, not right now. I just don't have the capacity for that. And I often ask people, do you have capacity to run something alongside what you're currently doing? They're just depending on horses for courses. But look, of course, I mean, I'll have as many no's as anybody here. It might even have more because I'm approaching a whole bunch of people, and that's okay. So when I went out to a bunch of people for our launch, I had quite a few come back. So look, Chris, thanks very much. Thanks for thinking of us. Not right now, but so that's yeah, that is business. And we're in business. I think that's the big thing. You got to, and that's what I would say to anybody that's new. Realize that when you enrolled uh, with LifeWave and you've got your brand partner number, you actually just bought a franchise. You just bought for the cost of an enrollment pack. You have bought a franchise that you can now go and build a business for. And it's no different if you get, if you buy a franchise, sometimes you buy customers with that. Sometimes you got to go and get customers. You're just using a name. It could be we have in New Zealand a Jim's mowing service. That's a franchise. Or you could have been one of the sports stores. And I'm just thinking, I'm not sure if Sterling Sports is a franchise, but that just came to mind. Someone's bought a franchise, they bought a business. Now they've got to go and get customers. It's no different here. And I think if you view it as that, and look, if it's, if we looked at Sterling Sport or, Rebel Sport, I don't know if you have Sterling Sport in Australia, but, not everyone wants to buy sportswear. Doesn't mean it's not a profitable business. It's just not everyone wants that. I think everyone needs this. I mean, I'm bantering continually with my osteopath. I said, you're nuts not getting on this. you know, and he said, there's nothing wrong with me. I said, you've got stem cells and they're declining. You need to at least try this. But I have the relationship to be cheeky with them like that. And I think that's one of the things too. It is earning the right to be able to, have those conversations with people. And look, you'll have different levels of conversation. You'll be able to sit down with your best mate and say, "Hey, listen, you need to just shut up and listen and watch what I'm going to show you, or have a listen to what I'm going to show you." But you've earned the right over years of that relationship to speak in. You could do that. So if you're talking to business people, we just need a slightly different approach. It depends on how well you know that person. You know, tell them you're excited. Tell them that it's an incredible opportunity. And look, you know, I have a certain level of credibility with the people I know, but I still use Andrew and Vanessa continually. I talked about Tessa's story. I talked about Steve and Gina. I talk about Sue because it took me, it was a wee while before I met Sue, but I talk about Sue's story. This lovely 72 or 73, 72, I think, yeah, Sue, grandmother, and what an inspiring story and how she's built this very successful business. I talk about Tessa's business, and I talk about Andrew and Vanessa, leading the charge throughout, New Zealand and Australia, and all we're doing is implementing what they put together in Australia to become one of the fastest growing organisations in APEC. And I'm just copying their process. I mean, the meeting I did last night was a launch meeting. So I was inviting my guests. Andrew and I did the intro, but we had Andrew and Vanessa do the launch meeting because I thought, I'm going to try this a little bit different. So instead of me just doing all the meeting and the talking when I'm meeting somebody, Andrew and Vanessa come in. It's that third party credibility. And and all the guys that have really been successful so far in our business, pretty much, I've introduced Andrew and Vanessa, and so it helps. So then it's not on you. That immediately takes it off you. And yeah, and look, and even if you're saying things like, I really don't know how this all works. But I've seen the opportunity. I'm in a position where I really want to get out of where I'm at. I want to, but I've met this fantastic couple, and they're just helping guide me and mentor me. So that was, I think that's that's powerful. It's powerful. And I remember that even in the first years when I got in the insurance business, the health insurance, I would be sitting in front of a client and I actually didn't know the answer to a lot of the questions. And I'd say, look, I actually don't know the answer to that. Let me just ring, there's somebody right now for the company or whatever it is. I'm just going to give them a quick call. I'm sitting in front of the client. And I asked them the question. Probably 99 times out of 100, I made a sale because suddenly they realized, hey, he's actually involved someone else. There's a bigger picture here. And that was insurance, but principle is exactly the same here. So
Amazing.
just for the,
Thank you.
that's right, Ange. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing the replay of your meeting. I was caught up in a meeting with some people overseas, but I'm going to watch that. I was looking forward to that.
Yeah,
So,
I'll upload it into the group by the end of today, hopefully. I'm just going to do a little bit of editing. But it was
yeah,
really great to have a big bunch of people on, and everybody that's in this call. A lot of you were on that call. So,
yeah,
and then the recording be available. But speak into how cool it was to do your opportunity meeting again. Like, 'cause a lot of people are shy
yeah,
about doing opportunity call. And I know the first one I did with David and I did in the first 3 months of joining LifeWave, we knew nothing. We were so green. And, I still feel nervous when I present because I care. I want to have a good result.
yeah.
So maybe talk into encouraging some of your folks to do their opportunity call as soon as possible.
Oh, 100%. You're talking about the launch meeting, the business launch. Yeah. Look, I'd resisted it for a long time, but then I realized it's just what took Andrew and Vanessa to senior presidential in sort of under 2 years. I thought, well, okay, they're where I want to be in this business. So if I want to be where they are, I need to start doing what they were doing. And so it was a little bit out of my comfort zone, a little bit doing it that way because I prefer to ring up. And often I would just ring up, say, I made one here earlier on this morning on the way into the office. I just sort of said, hey, I want to catch up for coffee. When are you free? And so we set up a meeting time for that. And then I would say, look, the reason I want to sit down is this. Um, so look, that launch meeting was brilliant. I think it's just understanding what you're doing with the launch meeting. One of the things that I found was actually I wished I'd started a week earlier from the time I wanted to put the invites out because there were so many people I couldn't find their email addresses to. And a lot of, I knew them. I didn't realize I know this person. I've seen them on Facebook all the time. I know them on LinkedIn, but I don't have their email address. So I'm having to go to them to get their email address. So that took a bit of time. So once I got all that together, that was really cool. And then we sort of launched out. And Andrew and Vanessa were brilliant as they always are. And yeah, we got a great reaction from that. So yeah, do that. I think when I learned because very early on I thought, well, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I grabbed hold of those slides. And my first few meetings, even with Ray will tell you, it was well, I think we had lunch. That's right. We were having lunch together. Rhonda was there, and Ray's daughter was there, and I had the slides on. The dinner, well, lunch was lunch actually, and the lunch table in the restaurant, and I'm running through the slides as we're trying to eat. So not the results speak for themselves, but and so I got comfortable with doing that. So when I started doing the odd meeting myself, that was really cool. And then suddenly someone said, could you, I've got 4 or 5 people, would you mind just talking to them? So it was actually sort of natural because I've done a couple of one-on-ones using the slides. So, talk to the guys about the launch meeting. I'm going to be talking to all our team about that launch meeting. I think it's brilliant. It's a great way. It was better than what I thought because it isn't just trying to sign everybody up. The amount of people that come back say, look, we're really tied up, but really interested in having a conversation afterwards. So yeah, it created an awareness.
Rudolph has a question.
Sure. Sorry, I haven't even been looking at the chat.
Hey, Chris, no worries. Just a quick question. If you had to do a cold canvassing, like a cold call, and you're going to phone, you coincidentally mentioned a osteo.
Yeah.
How would you go about, I guess the owner would be, you need to get to the owner to basically pose that question, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Look,
So
I
that's the,
think I think really that's something you want to think about. And don't hesitate, but when I say think about, just plan it out. And what part of the group are you in?
I am with, so North Island, Waikato.
Oh yeah, cool.
So,
Okay, no, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I know that. Yeah. So no, that's just, I thought that was you I was speaking to. Nice to meet you. Well, face to face.
so,
But look, I think sit down with your active upline and just say, oh, this is the campaign. Can we put together, a script for this? Because, you don't want to sort of, if you go unprepared, and I would do exactly the same thing. So with my emails, I put together an email, then I use Chat to tidy it up, Chat GPT to tidy it up. And then I ran it past Andrew and said, Andrew, what do you think about this? He said, oh, look, I think it went a bit soft there on the close. I thought, yeah, I suppose I did. Okay, all right. So I changed that. And so we did that together and put it together, because it will be, depending on what you're trying to achieve and what your relationship with these people, it'll all be different. But don't hesitate. When I say don't hesitate, but just plan it properly. Take a good day out. Talk to, it'll be, I guess you're working with Ray and Dean at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, and Vanda.
And Wanda, yeah, absolutely. So just look, as part of your group, just put one together, and then the whole group can use that as well if it's successful, and then everyone benefits from that.
Yeah, we got that actually from Ray.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought while we and can ask some questions, I'll just sort of like pitch an idea or question to it in terms of the approach. But yeah, I know it will be the difficult part will probably be getting past the reception, because that's the gatekeeper. So that'll be the biggest challenge, I think, in that one. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just some of that language that you would use. Let me just see if I can find a couple of things that where are we here?
There are some scripts on the Boards app, if you've got that through the Dream Team.
Yep.
There are
Yep.
scripts for specifically talking to practitioners. So you can use that, obviously, then add your energy into it, your message. But there are scripts there for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Wanda.
Chris, Angie, hi. It's so lovely to see you, Angie. Chris, sorry, I did in our group, there's the scripts that you sent us, the emails for Texas, whatever. It's actually pinned on our group. So remember those ones that you sent out in some last year, October, you wrote a few for a business person that's after I think it's after you've been to the shows or something.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have access to those and all of that. I think, just hearing what Rudolph was saying, getting together with Ray and Dean and whatever, and really seeing what it is that he wants to bring, and like very much bringing his own perspective to that as well.
Because they'll bring it back too, and they're really good leaders, and so are you. I mean, the first thing you would do, and Ray and Dean would do, is exactly the same as I'd do, is I'd run it past Andrew and Vanessa. Or if you're working with Sue, you'd run it past Sue, because these guys have got the wisdom. So look, I mean, the email that I put out, it was just something like, Happy New Year. It's been a while since we last connected. I hope you're well and business is flourishing. I just want to reach out to you personally and share a significant change I made at the back end of 2025 and outline what I believe is the most compelling opportunity I've seen in 40 years in business. So
that's good.
That was my first. That's my first line, basically. And I just talked about a business decision we've made, and it's very deliberate. It's allowed Andrew and I to focus our time and energy on building something entirely new. And in the past few months, we've been launching a global wellness business into New Zealand, built around a patented non-invasive technology that activates the body's own stem cell regeneration. The science, the results, the global momentum behind it are extraordinary. And then I go on. So I'm now looking to bring together a small foundational group of brand partners, people I respect, who are entrepreneurial, well-connected, and able to see the bigger picture. This is not an investment opportunity. The business is fully capitalized. Rather, I'm looking for 6 to 8 forward-thinking individuals who can see themselves at the forefront of a global wellness movement with serious scale. And then I'll put in the link. To this end, I'm hosting a private invite-only Zoom webinar. Put the date, lasts no more than 30 minutes, walk you through the technology, the business model, and why I believe this represents a rare timing opportunity for the right people. We're deeply passionate about this, genuinely believes it represents a rare timing opportunity, one of the most compelling I've seen in over 40 years of business. And if this resonates, please let me know and I'll send you a link. So that was sort of
good.
So that's and look, this is going to be part of what we, I think Andrew and Vanessa want me to put some of this up in the Monday training, and quite happy to do that. So, you know, if we
I think your note taker took that, Rudolph. Did your note taker would have captured all that? Okay, cool. That gets Dean off the hook for on this call. Thanks, Chris.
That's right, guys. But like, you know, like we're going to do that. We're going to run these. I probably need to wrap up. I've got another meeting coming up fairly shortly. But look, we will, like I said, we'll be very interactive. I haven't seen any other questions, have I? We've got a Zoom call tonight, by the way, in New Zealand. It should be on the Business Builders app, Dream Team Business Builders, 7 o'clock New Zealand time. So it's just an opportunity meeting. So that if you want to invite anybody along to that, so Andrew and I will be doing that. But as we go forward in these, we'll get into a bit of a flow, and then like I said, I'm going to bring other guys in that have I want to hear their perspective. You know, Andrew and Dave are doing fantastic. They'll have ways of approaching different people, you know, particularly from their industry perspective. You know, if we can get Natasha on at some point, because she's talking to, you know, to wellness people as well. Certainly Mark and Dean and Ray, we'll get those different people on. And we might even ask some of you, how would you like to be, you know, and I think that's a good question just to close on. How would you like to be approached about a business opportunity? You know, what is it that would resonate with you? Because if it resonates with you, I'm sure it's going to resonate with others. All right, guys. It's been a pleasure sharing with you. And like I said, it'll be the same time every Thursday for half an hour. This has gone for 45 minutes, so I apologise for that. But going forward a bit, we'll try and keep it at the 30 minutes, so you know it's not going to interrupt too much of your day. But for those that are coming on tonight, look forward to sharing tonight, and go well. And yeah, great. I'll tell you what we're doing the weekend, by the way, just to close off, is because we bought the virtual for All In. So we're having a potluck at our place for those that are in Christchurch or surrounding areas on Saturday night, and we're going to go through it. So that's going to be, I don't know, yeah, we're going to have a packed house, I think. So, all right, guys, go well, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Chris. See you guys.
Bye-bye.